No one noticed Evelyn Carter. Not in the courthouse hallways of Brooklyn, not in the quiet suburban streets of Long Island, and certainly not in her own marriage. She learned early that silence was safer than truth. Evelyn was born in a small Ohio town where screams stayed inside walls and neighbors pretended not to hear them. Her mother smiled in public, her father ruled in private, and Evelyn learned the most dangerous thing a woman could learn in America. By the time she married Marcus Carter, she had perfected it. Marcus was everything America trusted: corporate lawyer, clean reputation, community donor, sharp suits, calm voice. Men admired him, women trusted him, judges respected him. Evelyn? She was just Marcus's wife, the kind who smiled quietly at charity dinners, the kind who never interrupted, the kind who didn't speak unless spoken to. And Marcus loved that. On their wedding night, he told her something she would never forget. A peaceful woman makes a powerful man unstoppable. She thought it was romantic. She was wrong. The abuse never started with fists. It started with corrections. Her clothes weren't professional enough. Her opinions weren't informed enough. Her friends weren't intelligent enough. When she cried, Marcus would sigh, disappointed, not angry. "Why do you always make things dramatic, Evelyn?" Soon, she stopped crying. By year 3 of marriage, Evelyn stopped speaking during arguments. By year 5, Marcus stopped pretending they were arguments at all. It was raining the night Evelyn discovered the first truth. Marcus forgot his phone. That never happened. The screen lit up at 11:47 p.m. A message preview appeared. "She suspects nothing. We're safe." Evelyn didn't unlock the phone. She didn't need to. Because in that moment, something old woke up inside her, something she'd buried as a child. Silence wasn't weakness. Silence was observation. Evelyn had once wanted to be a forensic accountant. Numbers made sense when people didn't. She gave up that dream for marriage, but the skills never left. Over the next months, she noticed patterns: transfers under $10,000, shell charities Marcus controlled, a second apartment lease in Queens, a name that kept appearing: Lena Moore. Marcus was laundering money. And worse, he was using Evelyn's name in filings she had never seen. The final moment came quietly. Marcus stood in their kitchen, coffee in hand, reading the news. Without looking at her, he said, "If anything ever happens to me, you wouldn't survive 5 minutes without my protection." He smiled. That night, Evelyn opened a new email account. She named it Verdict Awaited at protonmail.com. And for the first time in her life, she didn't pray for safety. She planned for justice.
Marcus Carter was a man who understood one simple truth about America: image is power. Truth was optional. Every morning at 6:15 a.m., Marcus jogged through their Long Island neighborhood in gray compression gear, earbuds in, posture perfect. Neighbors waved, dogs barked, people smiled. "Great guy," they said. Evelyn watched from the kitchen window every morning, coffee untouched, studying the rhythm of his routine. He never jogged on Tuesdays. That was the first pattern. The man everyone trusted. Marcus specialized in corporate defense, not criminal law, not emotional cases, corporations. When companies poisoned water supplies or quietly settled sexual harassment cases, Marcus was the man they called. He didn't yell in court. He didn't threaten. He buried people under paperwork. Judges admired his discipline. Opposing counsel feared his patience. And juries? They believed him. Marcus had a gift for controlled sincerity. He never lied outright. He reframed. Evelyn, the decorative wife. At fundraising galas, Evelyn stood half a step behind him, always. Marcus never told her to. She learned. If she spoke too long, his hand would tighten slightly around her wrist. A signal. At home, he never hit her. That would have been crude. Instead, Marcus practiced something far more effective. Psychological erasure. If Evelyn disagreed, he laughed softly. If she questioned him, he paused, like a disappointed teacher. You don't really understand how these things work. Eventually, Evelyn stopped questioning reality. Lena Moore was younger, sharp, ambitious. She worked in nonprofit compliance, irony Marcus found amusing. Evelyn learned Lena's name through donation records. Small charities, rotating boards, identical formatting errors. Marcus didn't hide Lena. He disguised her, as business, as charity, as virtue. Evelyn began waking at night, sitting at the dining table with spreadsheets open, hands steady. She tracked Marcus's billable hours, charity donations returned through shell vendors, consulting fees routed offshore, her own forged signatures. Marcus had built a system, a clean one, and Evelyn was the silent beneficiary on paper, which meant one thing. If it collapsed, she would fall first. One night, Marcus came home late, whiskey on his breath, confidence loosened. He dropped his briefcase and said casually, "A client tried to turn on me today. Didn't end well for him." Evelyn said nothing. Marcus continued, "Funny thing about the law, whoever controls the narrative controls the outcome." He smiled at her, not lovingly, warningly. Evelyn makes her first move. She didn't confront him. She didn't cry. She did something Marcus never expected. She scheduled an appointment. Not with a lawyer, with a therapist. Dr. Hannah Lowell, trauma specialist. Evelyn didn't tell Marcus the truth. She told him she felt unfulfilled. Marcus approved. A weak wife was a manageable wife. Dr. Lowell listened, really listened. And one day she said, "You speak like someone who's preparing for something." Evelyn blinked. That was the moment she realized. She was no longer surviving. She was preparing. The document that changed everything. 6 months later, Evelyn found it. A digital file buried inside a charity audit folder. A confession. Not written. Recorded. Marcus's voice. Laughing. Explaining how donations were cleaned, routed, reclaimed. How his wife's name provided insulation. She signs whatever I put in front of her. Evelyn closed the laptop carefully. Hands calm. Breathing slow. This wasn't rage. This was clarity. Marcus believed Evelyn was incapable of strategy. That was his greatest mistake. Because Evelyn had learned something Marcus never did. Power doesn't rush. Power waits. She backed up the file, encrypted it, then deleted the original. And then she did nothing. For months. She cooked. She smiled. She attended galas. Marcus relaxed. Men like Marcus always do. One evening, Evelyn asked casually, "Do you ever worry about everything falling apart?" Marcus laughed. "I'm the one who makes things fall apart." That night, Evelyn added a new folder to her encrypted drive. She named it.
Evelyn understood something Marcus never bothered to learn. You don't destroy powerful men by accusing them. You let them expose themselves. Marcus trusted systems. He trusted contracts. He trusted his reputation. He trusted that no one, especially not his wife, would ever be patient enough to wait him out. Evelyn had nothing but time. The move he couldn't ignore. The trap began with a question so small it barely deserved suspicion. One quiet Sunday afternoon, Evelyn sat beside Marcus on the couch, her voice soft. "Do you think I should open a charity of my own?" Marcus looked up from his tablet. "For what?" "Domestic trauma recovery for women." Marcus almost laughed. Almost. But then his lawyer instincts kicked in. Charities were safe. Charities were profitable. Charities were unregulated enough to be flexible. He nodded slowly. I can help you structure it. That was all Evelyn needed. The charity that wasn't real. They called it Silent Harbor Foundation. Marcus designed everything: the Shell LLC, the donor pipeline, the tax buffers, the offshore consulting partners. Evelyn watched, listened, learned. Marcus believed he was teaching a child. What he didn't realize was that Evelyn had already mapped the entire system months ago. Now she had proof of intent and proof of control. The recording he made himself. Marcus had a habit when he was proud. He talked. One evening, wine loosened his restraint. You know why I never lose, Evelyn? She shook her head. Because people don't think quietly dangerous women exist. He laughed. She pressed record. Evelyn didn't contact the police. That would have been loud. She contacted the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. Online form, encrypted browser, no emotion. She attached financial discrepancies, recorded explanations, offshore routing charts, her own forged signatures. Then she waited. The first knock. The IRS didn't come for Marcus. They went to one of his Shell charities. Then another. Then a third. Marcus noticed something was wrong when a board member stopped returning calls. He noticed something was very wrong when his bank requested routine clarification. Marcus feels it. One night, Marcus came home furious. Not at Evelyn. At the world. People are getting careless, he muttered. Evelyn poured him whiskey. Listened. Asked nothing. Inside, her heart was calm. Because the machine had started. And machines don't stop for regret. The FBI enters quietly. Financial crimes don't make headlines. They make files. And those files grow. By the time the FBI became interested, Marcus's name was already flagged. His accounts frozen temporarily. His charities reviewed. Marcus still believed he was in control. Men like him always do. The moment Evelyn crossed the line, the FBI called Evelyn, not as a suspect, as a witness. She said yes. That decision, quiet, deliberate, was the moment her old life ended. She didn't cry afterward. She slept, deeply, for the first time in years. They met in a small federal office. 2 agents. No intimidation. Just questions. Evelyn told the truth. Carefully. She never accused Marcus. She described systems. She showed evidence. She let the agents reach conclusions on their own. One of them finally said, "Your husband is very good." Evelyn nodded. Yes. That's why he's dangerous. Marcus sensed something shifting. He began checking Evelyn's phone, her email, her movements. But Evelyn had already erased herself. Every step she took now left a trail he couldn't see. Because it wasn't emotional. It was procedural. That night, Evelyn opened her encrypted drive. She created a new folder. Inside, she placed one final document. A letter. Addressed to Marcus. Not yet, but soon.
There was a moment, quiet, invisible, when Evelyn Carter stopped being afraid of her husband. Not angry, not vengeful, unreachable. That moment happened on a Wednesday morning while Marcus was yelling at someone on the phone. Marcus paced the living room, voice sharp. "Do you have any idea who I am? This is a misunderstanding. You don't freeze accounts without cause." Evelyn sat at the dining table, eating toast, listening, studying. And suddenly she realized something chilling. His voice sounded exactly like hers used to. Panic disguised as control.
fear masked by authority. That's when it happened. The emotional cord snapped. Marcus noticed the change within days. Evelyn no longer asked questions, no longer flinched at his tone, no longer adjusted herself to fit his moods. She became neutral, and neutrality terrified him. Because anger could be managed, tears could be manipulated. But silence? Silence hid weapons. One evening, Marcus confronted her directly. "You've been distant." Evelyn nodded. "I'm tired." That was it. No defense. No apology. Marcus waited for more. It never came. Marcus made his mistake at a charity gala. Too many drinks. Too many eyes. Someone mentioned audits. Marcus laughed too loudly. Audits are for amateurs. The room went quiet. Phones recorded. Smiles froze. And Evelyn watched from across the room as something she'd never seen before happened. Marcus realized he'd lost control of the narrative. Within a week, a financial journalist published a short piece. Nothing accusatory. Nothing dramatic. Just questions. Unusual donation flows. Complex nonprofit networks. High-profile attorney connected to multiple shell organizations. Marcus dismissed it publicly. Privately, he spiraled. Evelyn becomes invisible on purpose. She changed nothing outwardly. Same clothes. Same routines. But internally, she disconnected. Every interaction with Marcus became data. Tone. Timing. Pressure points. She stopped reacting. She started documenting. Marcus finally snapped. Not violently. Strategically. He stood in the doorway of the bedroom and said calmly, "You know, if I go down, you go with me." Evelyn met her eyes. No fear. "Then you should be very careful," she said. Marcus blinked. That wasn't in the script. The FBI moves closer. A second interview. Then a third. Evelyn was no longer just a witness. She was a cooperating source. They didn't promise protection. They didn't promise outcomes. They promised only one thing. "We'll follow the evidence." Evelyn smiled. That was all she'd ever wanted. Marcus's paranoia grows. He installed new security software, changed passwords, started sleeping lightly. He accused staff, blamed partners, threatened accountants, but never Evelyn. Because somewhere deep inside, he still believed the lie. She wasn't capable of this. Late one night, Evelyn opened her encrypted drive again. She added more lines to the letter. Not emotional. Not angry. Factual. Precise. A timeline of his actions. The consequences he ignored. The system he trusted too much. She didn't plan to send it. Not yet. Some truths are more powerful unread. This wasn't revenge anymore. Revenge is loud. Revenge is emotional. Revenge wants satisfaction. What Evelyn was doing now was something colder. She was correcting an imbalance. And the most terrifying thing about her, she felt nothing while doing it. Marcus lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Evelyn lay beside him, breathing evenly. Between them was a silence heavier than any argument they'd ever had. Marcus whispered into the dark, "Are you happy?" Evelyn didn't answer. Because happiness was irrelevant now. Justice was already moving.
Marcus Carter believed crimes happened loudly. Sirens, handcuffs, blood. That belief would destroy him, because the most devastating crime in his life happened on paper, quietly, legally, and with his own authorization. The opportunity he created himself. Marcus needed control back. The audits were spreading. Accounts were restricted. Colleagues avoided his calls. So he did what powerful men always do when cornered. He consolidated. He moved money. And he trusted the one person he believed incapable of betrayal. Evelyn. The document. Marcus placed a folder in front of her at the dining table. "Routine restructuring," he said casually. "Sign here and here." Evelyn glanced at the papers. Shell transfers, charity dissolutions,
emergency asset migration. Every page carried her forged history. Except this time, it wouldn't be forged. She picked up the pen, signed slowly, legally. Marcus smiled. He had just authenticated his own collapse. What Evelyn knew, and he didn't. Those signatures triggered mandatory federal reporting. Marcus had bypassed it before using proxies, but now his wife was the principal signatory, which meant automatic disclosure, full transparency requirements, retroactive audits. Marcus had unknowingly activated a legal spotlight he couldn't turn off. The crime. 2 days later, a federal complaint appeared. Headline: Silent Harbor Foundation under criminal review for financial misrepresentation. Marcus read it 3 times. His name wasn't listed as the accused. Evelyn's was. He felt relief, then confusion, then rage. Marcus makes his second fatal mistake. He confronted Evelyn immediately. What did you do? Evelyn didn't deny anything. She didn't explain. She said only, I signed what you gave me. That answer destroyed him, because it was true. And the truth is very difficult to defend against. The FBI executes the search. They arrived at 6:04 a.m. Not dramatic, not violent, professional. Computer seized, documents boxed, phones cloned. Marcus wasn't arrested, yet. Evelyn was detained for questioning. Marcus watched from the doorway as she calmly put on her coat. She turned once. I'll cooperate fully. Marcus felt something cold crawl up his spine. The interrogation that wasn't. Evelyn sat with federal attorneys for 8 hours. She answered everything. She handed over drives, passwords, timelines. She never accused Marcus. She let the data speak. By the end, she wasn't a suspect. She was protected. That night, Marcus sat alone in the house. No Evelyn, no control, no certainty. His phone rang once. A colleague. Then silence. His reputation, the thing he trusted more than law, was cracking. The narrative shifted fast. Not charity fraud, but high-profile attorney's wife cooperates with federal investigation. The implication was clear. Marcus Carter was the story now. In a safe apartment the government arranged, Evelyn opened her laptop. She added one final section to the letter. You believed intelligence belonged only to men who speak loudly. She saved it, encrypted it, and closed the file. The letter was finished. Evelyn didn't feel victorious. She felt finished. The woman who once cried quietly in kitchens no longer existed. What remained was someone Marcus had never prepared for. A witness with nothing to lose. Marcus stood in his empty home holding a subpoena. His name printed clearly. Unprotected, unbuffered, unforgivable. For the first time in his life, the law wasn't something he used. It was something approaching him, and it was being led by the woman he thought he owned.
Marcus Carter had argued in courtrooms his entire adult life. But walking into one as a defendant, that was a different kind of silence. The arrest. Quiet. Humiliating. There were no sirens, no media crowd. 2 federal agents met Marcus in his office lobby at 8:32 a.m. Marcus Carter? Yes. You are under arrest for conspiracy, wire fraud, and obstruction. They didn't raise their voices. They didn't touch him roughly. They didn't need to. The walk past his staff was worse than handcuffs. The story America heard. Within hours, the headline spread. Prominent corporate attorney arrested in multi-million-dollar nonprofit fraud scheme. Subheadline: Wife cooperates with federal authorities. Marcus read it in holding. That second line hurt more than the charges. Evelyn watches from somewhere safe. Evelyn watched the news from a furnished apartment with neutral walls and borrowed furniture. Witness protection wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, clinical, exactly how she needed it. She didn't smile when Marcus's mugshot appeared. She simply noted how tired he looked. The courtroom, day 1. The courtroom in Brooklyn was packed. Journalists, observers, law students. Marcus wore a gray suit, no tie. He looked smaller. The judge entered, and for the first time in his life, Marcus wasn't in control of the room. The prosecution opens. The prosecution didn't shout. She didn't moralize. She said calmly, "This case is about a man who used trust as camouflage." She walked the jury through. Shell charities, offshore accounts, forged authorizations, recorded explanations. She never once said evil. She didn't have to. Marcus's defense, denial with confidence. Marcus's attorney leaned into familiarity. This is a tragic misunderstanding, a confused spouse, overzealous investigators. Marcus nodded subtly. He knew this strategy. He had used it himself. Once upon a time, it worked. Then the witnesses' turn. One by one, accountants, board members, former associates. Each said the same thing.
Marcus controlled everything. The jury leaned forward. Marcus stopped nodding. The recording plays. The prosecutor pressed a button. Marcus's own voice filled the room, laughing, explaining, boasting. She signs whatever I put in front of her. Marcus's face went pale. Evelyn's name echoed through the courtroom, spoken by his past self. The moment he realizes. Marcus turned toward the gallery. Evelyn wasn't there. She never would be. And suddenly he understood. This wasn't betrayal. This was consequence. Evelyn's testimony. Evelyn testified remotely. Calm, clear, precise. She never raised her voice. She never accused. She described systems, timelines, decisions. The jury watched a woman who wasn't angry. They trusted her. The cross-examination fails. The defense tried to break her, tried to imply manipulation, tried to suggest revenge. Evelyn answered once. If I wanted revenge, I would have screamed. I chose the law instead. The courtroom went still. Marcus loses his temper. On day 4, Marcus interrupted, shouted, corrected a witness. The judge warned him. The jury watched a man who couldn't stay quiet anymore. The mask cracked. The narrative changed overnight. Wife exposes husband's financial empire. The silence that brought down a lawyer. Marcus became a cautionary tale. Evelyn became a symbol. Marcus sat alone at the defense table, hands folded. No confidence left to perform. He finally understood something too late. He had trained Evelyn to be silent, and silence had dismantled him piece by piece.
America loves a rise, but it feeds on a fall. And Marcus Carter's fall was perfectly timed. The internet decides his fate first. The verdict hadn't arrived yet, but social media had already ruled. Clips from the trial spread across platforms. Marcus interrupting witnesses, the recording of his own voice, Evelyn's calm testimony. Hashtags appeared overnight. Hashtag silent verdict. Hashtag justice for Evelyn. Hashtag the lawyer who lied. Marcus watched it on a small screen in a holding room. Each refresh stripped another layer of the man he used to be. The colleagues disappear. Emails stopped. Calls went unanswered. The firm released a statement. Marcus Carter is no longer affiliated with our organization. 20 years erased in a paragraph. His bar association suspended his license pending outcome. Marcus wasn't a lawyer anymore. He was a defendant with a past. The friend who testified. The final betrayal came quietly. Jonathan Reese, best man at Marcus's wedding, godfather to no one because Marcus never wanted children. Jonathan took the stand, voice shaking, and said, I believed him, until I didn't. Marcus closed his eyes. That hurt more than prison ever would. Evelyn becomes a symbol against her will. Articles stopped calling her the wife. They used her name, Evelyn Carter. Op-eds appeared. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. Women wrote comments. I see myself in her. She waited, she survived, she won. Evelyn read none of it. She had learned long ago. Attention is another kind of cage. The call from his mother. Marcus received one aloud call. He chose his mother. She answered quietly. After a pause, she said, I watched the trial. Marcus waited for support. She continued, You sound like your father. The line went dead. The private loss no one saw. Marcus's accounts were frozen, his assets seized, the house sold under federal lien. The last possession he lost wasn't money, it was authority. Guards called him Carter, not Mr. Carter. That distinction mattered to him. Evelyn meets the cost of winning. In her safe apartment, Evelyn packed a suitcase. She was relocating again. New city, new name, new life. The agent asked, Any regrets? Evelyn thought for a moment. I regret how long I stayed silent for the wrong reasons. That was all. The night before the verdict, Marcus lay awake on a narrow cot, lights never fully off, noise constant. For the first time in his life, no one cared what he thought. No one waited for his argument. No one asked for his version. And that terrified him more than the sentence ever would. Outside the courthouse, protesters gathered, some angry, some quiet. Signs read, Justice doesn't need a voice. Marcus watched through bulletproof glass. The world he believed he controlled had rewritten him. He was no longer the man who bent systems. He was the lesson. That night, Marcus whispered into the dark, I built everything. No one answered, because what he built had already decided to erase him.
The letter was never meant to be sent. That was the cruelest part. The letter's origin. Evelyn wrote it across 3 nights. Not in anger. Not in grief. In clarity. She didn't write to accuse Marcus. She didn't write to punish him. She wrote to finish a conversation he never allowed her to have. The subject line read, "What silence actually meant." She saved it, encrypted it, and walked away. What Marcus never knew. Marcus believed Evelyn stayed because she was weak. He never considered another possibility, that she stayed because she was learning. Every dismissal taught her timing. Every insult taught her restraint. Every threat taught her leverage. The letter explained this. But Marcus would never read it. Excerpts from the letter. You believed silence was consent. It wasn't. It was observation. You thought I didn't understand the systems you built. I understood them better than you understood me. You never asked why I stopped arguing. Because arguing meant I still needed you to hear me. I stopped needing that. Evelyn paused after writing that line. It felt like closure. The choice she made. The FBI asked if she wanted the letter added to evidence. She said no. Not because it was weak, but because it was personal. Marcus didn't deserve her words. Justice didn't require her pain. Marcus's final attempt at control. 2 days before sentencing, Marcus requested permission to contact Evelyn. The request was denied. He asked his attorney to pass along a message. Tell her we can still fix this. The attorney didn't repeat it. Some lies don't deserve delivery. Evelyn lets go completely. Evelyn deleted the letter. Not angrily. Deliberately. The words had already served their purpose. They reminded her she no longer needed to explain herself. To anyone. The audience realizes the truth. This wasn't a story about a wife destroying a husband. It was about a woman refusing to disappear quietly anymore. Marcus didn't lose because Evelyn attacked him. He lost because she stopped protecting his image. The sentencing day from afar. Evelyn didn't watch it live. She walked instead. A different city. Different name. Different life. Somewhere far from courtrooms. Marcus hears about the letter. A guard mentioned it casually. Your wife wrote something once, right? Marcus looked up. A letter? The guard shrugged. Guess she deleted it. That was when Marcus finally understood. There would be no final argument. No last word. No closure shaped to his liking. The pain that lands too late. Marcus sat alone that night. Not angry. Not defiant. Just hollow. Because the worst punishment wasn't prison. It was knowing the truth existed. And he would never hear it. Somewhere else, Evelyn slept peacefully. For the first time in years. No plans. No fear. No need to be understood. And for the first time, Marcus and Evelyn existed in the same world. Completely disconnected.
The courtroom was quieter than anyone expected. No cheers, no gasps, just the sound of paper shifting and a judge clearing his throat. The day America waited for. Marcus Carter stood as the verdict was read. He had imagined this moment differently. He thought there would be anger, defiance, one last speech. Instead, there was only exhaustion. The jury foreperson spoke clearly. On all counts, we find the defendant guilty. The words landed softly and stayed. No triumph, only finality. Marcus didn't react. No collapse, no outburst. Just a slow exhale, as if some part of him had known this was inevitable long before the trial began. The judge looked at him, not with satisfaction, not with cruelty, but with something closer to disappointment. The sentence. The judge spoke carefully, deliberately. Mr. Carter, you abused trust, power, and the law itself. This court finds no justification for leniency. Sentence. 22 years in federal prison, full asset forfeiture, permanent disbarment, restitution to affected charities. The gavel fell. That sound echoed longer than anything else. Marcus understands too late. As marshals led him away, Marcus searched the room. Not for cameras, not for supporters. For Evelyn. She wasn't there. And that absence finally broke him. Not because he wanted forgiveness, but because he wanted to be seen one last time. The media reaction. Headlines flooded in. Fall of a legal giant. Silence wins. Wife's cooperation ends fraud empire. Justice without drama. Pundits argued. Some praised Evelyn. Some blamed her. America always needed sides, but Evelyn had already stepped outside that story. Evelyn hears the verdict indirectly. She was in a small cafe. Different name on the cup, different city skyline outside the window. Her phone buzzed once. A short message from a federal contact. It's over. That was all. Evelyn nodded, finished her coffee, and went on with her day. What the verdict didn't fix. Justice didn't return lost years. It didn't erase nights spent doubting her reality. It didn't restore the woman she might have been. But it did something quieter. It ended the lie. Marcus's first night sentenced. In his cell, Marcus lay awake. No books, no files, no arguments left to prepare. Only memory. For the first time, he replayed moments differently. Her silence, her stillness, her patience. He finally understood. She hadn't been absent. She had been watching. The audience realization. This verdict didn't feel like victory. It felt like gravity. Unavoidable, unemotional, complete. And that made it more powerful than any revenge fantasy. Marcus closed his eyes, not in peace, but in surrender, because the system he trusted above all else had finally spoken back to him.
The gavel's echo had faded months ago. The media storm had dispersed. Marcus Carter's name was now whispered in court archives, not headlines. And Evelyn? She no longer existed in that world. The new life. Evelyn moved to a quiet city on the West Coast. Small apartment, coffee shop on the corner, bookstore down the street. She walked without looking over her shoulder. She smiled, rarely, softly, only when she chose to. Her life was ordinary, and that was her victory. The letter she never sent. Sometimes, in quiet moments, she remembered the letter she had deleted. It contained the final truth, one Marcus would never know. I didn't destroy you. I only stopped carrying your weight. Silence is not weakness. It's freedom. Evelyn smiled at the thought. Freedom tasted like air after a storm. Invisible, yet undeniable. Marcus in prison. Marcus sat in a small cell in a federal penitentiary. No books, no visitors, no distractions. He had time to think. Too much time. And he thought of Evelyn often. Not with anger, not with regret, though that lingered, but with an understanding he had never had before.
She had won, not by fighting, but by waiting, by observing, by silence. The cost of his empire. The houses were gone. The accounts frozen. The charities restructured legally. Colleagues had abandoned him. And worst of all, he realized he had never controlled anything but appearances. Every move he had made, every manipulation, every smile of authority, it had been transparent to someone he thought was invisible. Evelyn had watched. She had learned. She had outlasted him. The quiet triumph. Evelyn never celebrated. She didn't post online. She didn't tell anyone what she had done. She didn't need to. The world thought Marcus Carter had fallen because of law, media, and public outrage. But the real force? A woman who chose to stop crying. A woman who planned quietly, patiently, deliberately. A woman who walked away. The final moment. Years later, Evelyn looked at the Pacific Ocean. Wind in her hair. Sun fading over the horizon. No messages. No ties. No past. She whispered to herself, "Silence is everything I ever needed." The waves answered nothing. And that was exactly how it should be.